Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking about, I forgot all about this. This is Khalil Mack's first training camp with the Chicago Bears. I'm going to be talking all about it. We're also going to be talking about the Cubs' sweep of the Milwaukee Brewers and a little White Sox talk in here. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. The season is right around the corner, so don't sleep on it. Head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, sign up for season tickets and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, you've got to be feeling better because of wonderful weather, starting a new job, and the Cubs decided to play winning baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel better. I don't mean to sound like a downer, but I gotta tell you, there's part of me that feels still a little irritated.
Oh, there's a whole lot of me that feels irritated, but
we could have a stranglehold on this division right now if it wasn't for all those awful blown games.
Yeah, I mean, we could have like an old school hammer lock on this.
We'd be like 5+ games up in the driver's seat right now.
Yeah, but instead, did the Cardinals win today?
They did not.
They were down 3-1. Okay, so then the Cubs are up by a whole game?
Yeah, game and a half actually.
Game and a half.
Because remember, they swept, and the Cardinals only played 2 in St. Louis, or they played 2 in Oakland. So that first day when the Cubs won game 1 of the series,
okay.
The Cardinals didn't play, so they gained half a game.
MLB.com is not updated yet. But yeah, I mean, it sucks. Some of the road series, the road stand that the Cubs were on, absolutely sucks. We'll get into it a little more. But it is nice to get a sweep against a division rival. It's a hopefully a righting of the ship. And we'll find out more because the Cubs, I guess we'll just talk Cubs while we're on this already. Because the Cubs they got three more home games against Oakland, that's not a gimme series. Like the Oakland A's are playing. Yeah.
That's a good team.
Like that's really under the radar right good. Now. So it's going to be a tough series. And then you go 4 in Cincinnati, 3 in Philadelphia, 3 in Pittsburgh. So you get a nice 10-game road trek in there. And that's where you're going to figure out, what this team is. Did they fix anything with some of these trade deadline moves?
And you know what? I think Theo Epstein did a very good job at the trade deadline. I thought getting Nick Castellanos was great. I thought it was nice getting a guy like Tony Kemp. They picked up a few relievers, no big names, but I mean, really, there weren't a lot of big names on the market. And the one big name that went to Atlanta so far, Shane Green, has been awful. So they did what they could there. But as Theo Epstein said, he's, quote, embarrassed by the way they played on the road. They haven't won a road series since mid-May. Yep. It is August. It is
And somehow
August.
They're still in first place.
I won't believe it until they do it. I won't.
Yeah. And it's in that first one against Cincinnati, that's a tough one to win that series because it's a 4-gamer. It's real hard to win a 4-game series.
And the thing is, you go to Cincinnati, they may not be contenders necessarily, but now that they got Trevor Bauer, I mean, you're facing a pretty good pitching staff there. It's Cincinnati. If you're going to split, I think that's acceptable. I think a split is acceptable. And then when you go to Philadelphia, that team is reeling right now. I mean, look at what the White Sox did to them. They're a good team on paper, but right now, they're not playing so well. So maybe it's strike while they're cold. And then you go to Pittsburgh, you got to beat up on that garbage excuse of a team. You just have to. I mean, I don't know what else to say. You have to win on the road.
Yeah, the Cubs just have had trouble. Real trouble. And not just against good teams, against garbage teams too. They've had trouble against garbage teams on the road.
Yeah, I mean, all teams really. And I hate to sound like such a downer after such a great sweep, and we'll talk about the sweep because the sweep itself was great. I mean, they played great baseball this weekend, but they've played flawless baseball at Wrigley all season, and every time we thought they were back, they go on the road and they suck again. I mean, look at the way the second half started. You went 7-2 on the road trip. That is as good as you could ask for. I mean, that was really well done. And then you blow a terrible game in San Francisco. You lose a marathon in San Francisco. You go to Milwaukee and you throw the first 2 games away. And then you throw away the first one in St. Louis. So until they prove they could win on the road, I'm not going to believe it.
Right. So, yeah, the start of this week, you go 3 games in St. Louis. And, you know, if you tell me that in those first 2 games, you give up 2 runs and you split the first 2, that's no bueno. You can't do that. And the first game they lost, they lose 2-1 to St. Louis. Darvish pitches excellent. And I'm hearing on talk radio people blaming Darvish.
How can you do that?
How do you blame Darvish? Sure, that was 1 bad pitch to Goldschmidt, but you know what? The rest of the game was damn good. You need to score more than 1 run. You have to.
And what killed that game, what killed it, what lost them the game, was Jason Hayward at first, nobody out. He runs, 3-2 count to Bryant, a curveball that is maybe 5 feet out of the strike zone, and Chris Bryant literally lunges his whole body to try to hit it, which is why I think running and trying to steal and hit runs are really overrated. I think you should trust your offense to move the runners as they go, especially with an offense like this. And it turned out into a strike him out, throw him out double play. Then they loaded the bases, and then they didn't score. That would have been a huge inning. That would have won them the game.
Yep. It's just infuriating. And you know what? I'm okay with the hit and run if you've got somebody in there that can legitimately steal the base in steal the base situations when they're expecting it, when you've got a guy that does strike out quite a bit. And, you know, Chris Bryant is putting up great numbers this year, but he does strike out a lot. It puts you in a predicament. And Jason Hayward is a good base runner, but he's not necessarily a good base stealer. And I just, you know, part of the reason that the hit and run is out of vogue is because, you know, there's not a lot of great base stealers in baseball, and there's a lot of high strikeout guys in baseball. And those 2 things are recipes for disaster when you're trying to score runs.
You go with Anthony Rizzo more than Chris Bryant in that type of situation.
Yeah.
Rizzo doesn't swing and miss nearly as much.
No. I mean, the one thing that worries me, though, is Rizzo does hit a lot of line drives at people. And you know, that's a double up right there.
Yes, it is.
So, yeah, there's not a lot of guys on this team where I'm like, yeah, that's a good hit and run situation. But in that game, I just don't know how you blame Darvish, because if you put that stat line up and say that's what you Darvish is going to give you on the road in St. Louis in a battle for first place, you're going to take that 10 times out of 10 times.
Absolutely. No doubt. You look at the record for the Cubs on the road. Overall, it's like the worst in the NL, which is just mind-boggling. the fact that they're still in first place. The other thing is, what's really important is, on top of that, you're below 500 just against your division alone.
Mhm.
I mean, if you swung a few of those games, I mean, the Cubs would have a nice lead right now. And
They'd have a huge lead.
maybe I wouldn't be as antsy about this had last season not ended the way it did. We know what it's like now to let teams hang around. We know that one game can make all the difference. Go back last year. You could pick any bad Cubs loss, any one, and you turn that into a win, and they win the division before game 163, before it even gets there. One game. And I'm not saying that one loss dooms everything, but I'm just saying that the whole idea of letting so many opportunities to build a lead slip away. I mean, that's the Brewers, they are not that magical team that they were last year, but they're not just going to roll over and die. They're going to still try. Same with the Cardinals. I mean, I know they haven't been in the postseason a few years, but you can never, ever, ever rule that team out. All it takes is one hot streak and one cold streak, and things are just boom. Now, if the Cubs were just not playing like up to par, I mean, they kind of have it many times at the point. But I guess what I'm trying to say is so many of those losses were blown late leads, games you should have won. You make one pitch and you put it somewhere else, that suddenly turns into a win, and that suddenly turns into a bigger lead in the NL Central. I mean, it's that whole concept that has me a little more antsy than I probably normally would be.
Because of how great Paul Goldschmidt has been in clutch games and how good Christian Yelich has been, the last 2 years, is those two guys can just turn it on and carry a team at any point by themselves. And they've absolutely done it this year. The Cubs don't have anybody that's done that this year. Javi Baez did it quite a bit last year, put the whole team on his shoulders offensively. And you've had a few guys hitting decently, but not to the point where they're just carrying the team. And part of that is hitting home runs. That's how you end up carrying a team, is you hit, 7 home runs in an 8-game stretch. That's huge. And that's what Paul Goldschmidt has done at points in this year. That is what Christian Yelich has done. And nobody has really done that for the Cubs. And the Cubs are still grinding it out. They've had great starting pitching performance this year.
Yeah, that's my least of their worries.
Games.
Starting pitching is my very least of their worries right now.
Because their starting pitching has kept them in most games for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a handful of ones that got out of hand, but for the most part, they are in every game. And when was the last time the Cubs played a game where they didn't have the lead at some point?
It's been a while. I think there was a stat where until that last game in St. Louis, they had a lead in every single game since the All-Star break.
Yeah. So they've had the opportunity to win every single game, and it's been something else. Either the bullpen hasn't held, the offense isn't pulling their weight. There's been errors. It's been a lot of different factors. It's not the starting pitching. So somebody needs to come through offensively.
And it's been the bullpen, and it's been the defense. Yep. The defense has been awful this year. And I don't like blaming Joe Madden, but there have been too many times, I think, this year where they've tried to fit square pegs in round holes, and it just hasn't worked right. Pedro Strop was clearly not the same. He's on the IL. I think he's getting older. He has injury problems. He's just, declining. And he kept putting him out there even though he was struggling. And that cost you a few games. And I hate saying bad about Pedro Strop. I hate when people talk bad about him, but the fact of the matter is he just hasn't been the same guy anymore.
And you hope that there's some sort of nagging injury of some sort that is a huge part of it. You hope that that once he comes back from the disabled list, that he's much better than he has been. That's the hope. I mean, nothing's guaranteed, and you're right. He's getting some miles on him. He's got some age under him, but
He's going to be 30 soon, I believe.
so, but you hope, the hope is that once you get him back, that he has some time to rest, get right, and then come back and be a healthy pitcher.
Right. It would be really big to have that back. It's just when it wasn't working and you kept going to it, it was tough to watch. I mean, thank goodness that.
To be fair, and I'm the first one to be critical of Joe, is who in this bullpen would be in your circle of trust?
Brandon Kinsler is probably the big one outside Kimbrel. And Kimbrel's still showing some rust, but I think overall he's been more good than bad despite the rust. I mean, you look at the numbers look awful, but that's a really small sample size. He's had 2 bad games, one where he came in a garbage situation and another where he just had a bad blowed save. But other than that, if you take those 2 games away, the numbers would probably be so much better. But yeah, I mean, I've been saying Joe Mann doesn't deserve all the blame at times because a lot of guys in the bullpen have been sucking, particularly at the beginning of the year. But I think when Kinsler was doing well and Pedro wasn't, I think you kind of had to switch things there a little bit, maybe a little sooner. But there's nothing you could do about it now.
Yeah, I mean, and the one where I can really be critical of Joe is how often he was putting Brock in, and man, that guy brought the suckitude, and I'm not going to miss him.
Yeah, I think that Brad Brock, I didn't mind the signing, but there was clearly some physical issues there. I think he was dealing with mono plus a little bit of injuries. Just wasn't the same guy, unfortunately. It just didn't work out. But yeah, that needed to stop.
Yeah, the Cubs parted ways with him to make room for Cole Hamels, who came back from injured list.
And looked like Cole Hamels again.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to that first Cardinals game is, again, on top of, the obvious one that you brought forward with the bad swing and miss and the throw out, is in that game total between Bryant, Rizzo, Baez, Caratini, and Schwarber, 2 for 16.
Eesh.
That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. And you just need to be better. Your stars need to be better. If Schwarber and Caratini suck on the road, you got to live with it. But you can't have Baez, Rizzo, Bryant suck on all the same night. They just can't happen. Somebody's got to step up.
Right. Now, you bring up Caratini. He's a little more important now, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we had yesterday Wilson Contreras get injured with a hamstring injury, which really sucked last year, and happened just days after we traded Maldonado. And honestly, I wonder if how that would have changed things. I don't think Maldonado was the guy that they were expecting, but now it's Caratini is the man for who knows how long Wilson Contreras is going to be out. Hamstrings are tricky. They're nagging. You don't want to come back too soon from them, and they can linger and come back. So it might be a while. We'll see what the MRI results are tomorrow. And you brought up Taylor Davis.
Do you think yesterday I was at a charity event. We were doing a panel discussion, me and some other Cubs bloggers, writers. It was at G-Men Tavern in Wrigleyville. It was John Baker Day, celebrating the day that John Baker in the 16th inning took the mound, pitched a scoreless inning, and then scored the game-winning run. It's a yearly charity event for the battered women's shelter. We were talking because we were watching the game was going on and we saw the Wilson injury and we were all, really just shocked by it. And it was awful to see. But we were talking, Jonathan Lucroy was just DFA'd by whoever, it might have been the Angels, whoever he was with. And we thought, we can't trade anymore. They've changed the rules post deadline. Would you be willing to pick up a guy like him? I know his production and overall play is nowhere even close to where he was when he was an all-star. But, let's say Caratini becomes like your number one guy, like maybe starts 3 games a week. He catches Yu Darvish, he catches Hamels, maybe he catches Lester, but you bring in a guy for, 2 or 3 times over a span of 7 days, a guy like Jonathan Lucroy, a veteran who has been around a while, who knows how to work with veteran pitchers. I don't know what you think. It's something to think about, I guess.
He hasn't been very good this year.
No, he is not.
His slugging was 371.
At this point, I don't think you're necessarily looking for him to be the bat. You just to have a veteran catcher at this point.
I guess. The guy's got a negative WAR, and
yeah,
he's got a negative defensive stats too. Like, I don't know. I would be more tempted to see what Taylor can do.
The one thing I'll say about Taylor Davis is at least he knows the pitching staff by now. Since he's had a few stints up here, I think that's a leg he has up there. But the thing is now with the whole waiver thing, the rules changed. It's going to be very hard to pick up a veteran catcher. I think you can trade for somebody as long as they're under a minor league deal. Or like they're like playing in the minor leagues or a minor league contract, something like that. Or you pick up guys who are designated for assignment like Jonathan Lucroy. So, yeah, I know what you're saying. The numbers aren't good this year. The only thing I'd say is that he wouldn't be an everyday guy. But if the defense isn't good anymore, then that's probably a problem. It's crazy because Jonathan Lucroy was a multi-time All-Star just a few years ago. Like, he was one of the best hitting catchers in the game.
Yeah, just a few years ago. Defensively, he had good defensive numbers even last year.
Yeah.
But this year, not so much. I don't know if there's injuries or because it's to start declining defensively from one year to the next. That's a little weird. That usually has there's some sort of cause to that, but hitting wise, that's not surprising. He's been declining for the last several years. And yeah, you're right. Just a couple of years ago, the guy was over an 8 FWAR.
That's wow. That high?
I'm on Fangraphs, and 2014, he was 8.1. The year before that, 6.8, 6.2 before that. The year before that, he was 5.9, and the year before that, he was 4.0.
In 2014, he led the major leagues in doubles. A catcher led the league in doubles.
Yeah.
That's something.
His K rate is up.
At this point, like I said, I'm more concerned about what he could do behind the plate than with the bat. I think at this point, you're not going to expect anything more than like a 240 hitter these days with him. But
if I'm the Cubs, I would not. Let me put it this way: I'm going to leave no stone unturned. I'm going to go kick the tires on Lucroy, but I've got to see what he's got on the tank, what he's even thinking. Because how old is he? He's not a spring chicken. He's 33.
He's 33.
And in catcher years, that's like 57.
So here's just a theory I'm going to throw out there. This may not make much of a difference, but you think maybe part of why his defense wasn't so hot was because he was working with a pitching staff that's not that good? Like, if you're working with a better pitching staff, you think that can make a difference? I mean, you're the one with the defensive metrics up. I just have his baseball reference. You have Fangraphs up, but, I don't know if it's an issue of blocking, throwing out runners, framing, whatever it is. I don't think that Lucroy is ever going to be the player he once was. I just can't help but wonder if you brought him to a contender and he played with a better pitching staff, that maybe some of the numbers would improve slightly. I really don't know. It's, again, why I'm kind of asking this type of question.
I mean, again, I would be fine kicking the tires on him if you bring him in and bring him in to try out to see what he has firsthand, and you feel comfortable. You're right; he has been a very good catcher, both defensively and offensively, but this year has not been good. And again, he had an injury.
Yeah.
They DFA'd him 2 days after they brought him back from the injured list. So who knows what maybe a nagging injury was a precipitating factor to why he wasn't playing that well.
Could be possible. Absolutely.
I wouldn't, there's no a veteran catcher that's out there that I wouldn't, kick the, I would just be like, nah, I'm not going to kick the tires on that. But I don't know what if he just hit the wall and he's done, or if there's just injuries that were leading to it and he feels healthy now. If that's the case, then, you could bring him in for not much money.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, we've seen the Cubs try things that necessarily haven't worked, i.e. Carlos Gonzalez. Carlos Gonzalez was here and gone in a blink of an eye. Like, people have already forgotten Carlos Gonzalez was a thing at some points. So you don't really want to waste a roster spot if that's going to be the case. Obviously, catcher and outfielder are a little different. You don't expect as much offense from a backup catcher, but, the point remains the same. So, yeah, I think it's worth at least looking into. But if they deem that he's not, good enough, then I could understand that. I just think it's something to consider. Because Taylor Davis is a guy you could fill in for a few weeks, maybe a week or two. But if Contreras is going to be out for a while, and you're in a late pennant race, it's a little different.
Yeah, and honestly, if we don't even hear rumblings with Jonathan Lucroy, I mean, either their advanced scouts have already gone in and evaluated and been like, nah, we don't even want to talk to him, or, and I'm just throwing this out there, is what if they feel that Taylor Davis has promise and has shown some things back when he went back down after his stint up earlier, and he's shown something. I haven't seen any Iowa Cubs games. I can't tell you, but just throwing that out there is what if they feel more comfortable with him?
It could be. I don't really see that being the case, but I think maybe a little bit. Maybe they'll say, okay, we've seen him in the majors. We know he's not going to do much offensively, but defensively, he seems to have worked nice with our pitching staff, so that might be good enough for them, especially for a guy who's not going to be playing every day. So there could be something to that.
Yeah, but honestly, if you do feel that he's got promise, do you want him to sit there and be your backup? The backup to your backup? Or would you rather have him have playing time and bring in a veteran that, doesn't need to play every day to?
I don't think I confidently can tell you I don't think there is anyone in the organization saying Taylor Davis should be the everyday catcher.
No. But I'm saying if you feel like he does have promise, don't you want him down in Iowa playing every day?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I see what you're saying. At first I thought, whoa, wait a minute.
No. I meant, Caratini is your guy. There's, he's, as long as he's healthy, he is the carrying the lion's share until Contreras is back. Fact.
Yeah. And God forbid if he gets hurt.
Yeah, but as long as he's healthy, he is carrying the lion's share of the load.
And that's why I think getting another guy in here is important, because if Caratini gets hurt, then what do? You're kind of screwed. You're going to put Schwarber in and catch? Oh, God.
You could, but I don't really recommend it.
I say that. Hey, John Lackey, you doing anything? No. Well, come here. We may have a job for you. Okay. John Lackey starts to go clank, clank, clank towards the mound. No, John. We need you behind the plate. Ting. What? We need you behind the plate. What? Yeah, it just right behind there. Here's some pads. Here's a mask. Here's a catcher's glove. He puts his chaw bucket right next to home plate, where he's within good spitting distance. He would definitely be one of those old time mask wearers, so he could easily lift and. Yeah, it'd be much easier, right?
It would. Yeah, I'm trying to even see if there's any other catchers available.
Oh, and the thing is, too, people have brought up like one of their catching prospects, but he's in like A-ball right now, so that's not an option.
Looks like Nick Hundley got DFA'd.
Is Randy Hundley available? He'll only play during night games, though, because if you've ever heard an interview with him, he'll tell you that he wished he could have played more night games in '69.
I mean, yeah, Nick Hundley hasn't been that good for the A's either. But he's an option too. But he's about to turn. Before the season ends, he'll be 36.
Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah, that is old for a catcher. My knees hurt just thinking about that.
Ugh.
But back to the Cardinals series is, Cubs won game 2. We're like, okay, all right, that's a good one. Kyle Hendricks comes out and has a dominant performance.
He's been so good.
I know.
Kyle
so
Hendricks, that guy is. I love that guy so much.
When he gets on a roll, man, it's hard to hit him. And no runs, 7 strikeouts, no walks, went 7. Kimbrel made it a little scary, but gets the job done, and you win with bare minimum offense, 2-0.
I mean, look at his current numbers right now. 20 starts, 3.07 ERA, 3.59 FIP, a whip of 1.2. Strikeouts per 9 exactly at 8. So where he normally is. Walks below 2. I mean, the command has been fantastic lately. We saw a little bit of a blip, but, he was able to kind of work around that and get back on the saddle. And, you look at the overall walks, 25 walks compared to 107 strikeouts. I love watching this guy pitch so much. It's amazing how underrated he is. It's amazing that he's never made an all-star game. I guarantee you he would have made an all-star game in 2017 had he not gotten hurt. And this year, too, he missed a few starts, and that kind of prevented him from making an all-star team. Same with Cole Hamels. I mean, we have some guys who have put up all-star numbers, pitching-wise, and, just haven't been able to get the recognition because the process is a little different for pitchers. But yeah, did you see that changeup that he was throwing that night? It was filthy.
Yeah, it was absolutely filthy. And I'm looking at his numbers too. Look at how consistent this is since he became a full-time starter in 2014. You had I guess 2014 won't do that because he only played part of the season. But here we go. 2015 on Ks per 9, 8.35, 8.05, 7.93, 7.28, 8.0. Like that is consistent. Walks 2.02, 2.15, 2.08, 1.08, 2.58, 1.99, 1.87.
Yeah, that's something to marvel at.
The home runs are up a tick.
So is everybody's, though. I mean, the
Yeah.
ball's freaking juiced, man. I mean, look at the number of guys who have 20 plus right now. I think it's like 60.
Yeah, and you look at
20 plus home runs these days aren't a big deal anymore.
no. I mean, it'd be nicer if we had more guys hitting home runs, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, you barely got bare minimum offense in a gem by Hendricks, and you eke that one out. And then the rubber game. Yeah, and that wasn't the worst John Lester performance I've seen this year, but it wasn't a good one.
I mean, the Cubs only got one hit anyway, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, one hit. And on that,
And, some of those hits off Lester weren't even that, hit hard.
no, and he didn't have a single walk. No walks.
Don't they have a really good, streak of no walks, this pitching staff?
Yeah, let's see. Hendricks didn't walk anybody. Lester didn't walk anybody. I don't know if Darvish did. Quintana didn't walk anybody. Hamels didn't walk anybody.
Darvish didn't walk anyone today.
Darvish, that is a lot of games to go through where not a single starting pitcher walked anybody.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Huh. That's pretty amazing.
It is. Like I said, the starting pitching should be the least of our worries.
Yeah, but this road series was terrible. 3-6. You can't have that. And when you should have won, realistically, it should have been 6-3.
Yeah.
Or 7-2.
If you would have swept the Brewers in Milwaukee and then swept them this weekend, would their season be completely over? No, but you really could have buried them down there.
Bury them and then have to leapfrog two teams.
Right.
For the division.
Exactly.
Cardinals had you taken that second or that first game. You're 2.5 up on them. So it's little things have a big ripple effect in your standings.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the way this team is played at home, and it's night and day. I don't get it. Some of it seems a little fluky too. It seems like the Cubs are finding a lot more holes for hits at home than on the road. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
I also think some of the hitters are just so accustomed to hitting at Wrigley when they go on the road. It's like, whoa, but it seems odd because they've never been this bad on the road before.
No, I mean, it's unreal bad. It is like I don't know how to explain it bad.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking at the pitching stats right now, and Darvish's hasn't been updated yet on Baseball Reference, but I believe he's like a 4.3 something ERA right now. You consider where the ERA once was. You consider all the problems. Here's the other wild thing. His whip is lower than Jose Quintana's and John Lester's. The guy who had so many walk problems early on, his whip is now lower than both those guys.
The weird part is with the walk problems he had, it wasn't the stuff. It was he wasn't throwing certain pitches.
Right.
Now he's got confidence in his pitches, and his stuff was great. It was either walk or strike somebody out. Like people weren't getting runs off of hits. So since the All-Star break, he's been great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has.
And
no walks, barely any.
And I know sports is all about knee-jerk reactions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can we all look back on the decision to not bring back Jake Arrieta and bring in Yu Darvish and start to say that maybe that was the right decision? Sure, you have had some bad results with Darvish at certain points, but Jake Arrieta doesn't look very good.
No, he doesn't. I mean, that's looking pretty bad there, honestly. And I love Jake. The thing was, yeah, if you want to argue you didn't want to pay Darvish all that money, I can get that. But we should have re-signed Arrieta takes. I was a huge fanboy of Arrieta in his prime years, but I think in 2017 it was really obvious that he was declining. I mean, right? It was pretty obvious. He wasn't the same guy he once was.
And part of my fear was if he was not good in Baltimore and suddenly he just miraculously figured things out in Chicago for a brief time and then declined. I'm not an accusation guy, but that's weird.
It is a little weird.
It's definitely an anomaly there. And so to think that signing him to a high price deal is going to be worthwhile, that's iffy. Darvish is showing you right now the kind of stuff he has, and he's healthy. He's in a good headspace. And I feel like the confidence as it grows is just going to make him better. My only concern is, when you make the playoffs, is he going to get some of that weird, like, mental juju that he's had previously in postseason? Is he going to get that, or is he going to build off of the confidence that he has and, fitting in with this team and really being in a good headspace?
Look, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx anything, but it seems like Yu Darvish over the past few months has really erased a lot of demons. He went back to Dodger Stadium and dominated his former team. He was able to overcome his Wrigley Field woes and pitch some really good games. Those back-to-back shutout games, a really good one today. He pitched very well despite a loss in St. Louis. The only little bug he's had so far this entire month was one bad inning in San Francisco where some no-name guy just crushed him. I mean, that's it.
Yep.
Some guy I never heard of.
So I'm very happy with where we are with Yu Darvish. So it was the right decision, and the knee jerk reactions were, this is awful. Theo totally messed this up, and it's, these contracts are long contracts, and you've got to see things out before you just write somebody off. You really do. And we're going to talk about another situation later on, that's another knee jerk type thing. So it's you've got to see how these things play out. And right now is, you need Yu Darvish to be pitching well because of the struggles you have offensively. And you've got Cole Hamels pitching great. Quintana had a great outing Friday. You have Hendricks in the zone. I'm not worried about Lester. He's definitely showing chinks in the armor, but I feel like he's going to be able to tough this year out and still give you some productive games. But yeah, overall, you need Darvish to keep this starting rotation as one of the best in baseball, and that's going to carry you forward, and that's going to be important, for the postseason. Should you make it, is your offense is not going to be carrying the load. You need the starting pitching to keep you in those games.
Want to hear some stats? I'm going to pull up some current stats right now. Going back to the last topic we were just talking about, as soon as this will load. Okay, so Yu Darvish, right now, after his game against Milwaukee, August 4th, on the season, he has a 4.36 ERA, a 1.21 whip, 149 strikeouts in 23 games. Technically, that ERA is just below league average, and considering it was once in the fives, the way it's come down, I think you got to like that so far. So that's Yu Darvish right now. Jake Arrieta, 4.44 ERA, a FIP of 4.88, and a whip of, if you round it up, 1.45. The strikeout numbers are way below Darvish. And if I'm seeing this correctly, I think the walks are a little, right now, the walks for Yu Darvish and the walks for Jake Arrieta are around the same in terms of per 9 innings. They haven't made the same number of starts, but you know, I'm just saying. Look at the two right now.
And one is ascending, one is descending.
Yu Darvish's stuff is, I'm not saying this is his best season, but if you look at his stuff, I've never seen it this good. Jake Arrieta's stuff has really dropped off.
Yeah. I mean, Darvish's stuff is still nasty.
It is.
It's you may catch him on a day where he's not hitting the strike zone. You may have a day where he has a rough inning. But this guy's stuff is just, he can make you look stupid up there at the plate.
I think one of the biggest issues that Darvish had to deal with was giving up long balls, because outside home runs, like, he does not get hit. Like, he doesn't give up a lot of hits. Like line drive base hits.
He really doesn't.
So if he could keep that up, I mean, you got to take that, right? You really got to take that.
Absolutely. And so the major move that the Cubs had at the All-Star, the trade deadline, was they brought in Nick Castellanos. And I know it's not a surprise to anybody because it's been on the radar of most people for, weeks now. I think it's probably one of the worst kept secrets is the Cubs were interested in him and they bring him in. And I was lukewarm about it. And again, this is a very short sample size, but so far I'm looking up recipes for crow.
Ha! I will serve that crow to you on a golden platter.
Because he has been a good addition to this lineup and so far, and he looks good at the plate. And I like, in theory, what he helps do to that lineup is, in theory, he's pushing Bryant down to third, Rizzo cleanup, Baez to fifth. And if somebody can hit leadoff, you move Hayward down to the sixth spot to take the Contreras place while he's injured. And that gives you a formidable lineup there of guys in a row. Castellanos hitting well, Bryant, perennial all-star, Rizzo, perennial all-star, Baez, perennial all-star, Hayward having a fantastic year. That's a real lineup that you've got to deal with. And it leaves you with the 7 and 8 hole where you're weak if you can find somebody to hit leadoff. And I know Hayward's been doing it, but I just feel that he's done all right. I feel like he's
more than all right. He's got a couple leadoff homers. I mean, that guy's really been doing well in that spot right now.
I like him down in the order a little bit, but you know what? If I don't know who else is going to take that spot,
if it works right now, I say roll with it.
I mean, if come September 1st, when you bring up Ben Zobrist, if he can do the job, that makes everything so much better.
Sure, it would. I just don't think I'd stick Ben Zobrist in the leadoff spot right away.
And I mean, and that's, I know that the waiver deadline, trade deadline is no longer here, but in essence, we've got two potential waiver wire moves still in the books, possibilities. One, Ben Zobrist coming back. They're saying for the month of August, he's going to be, either, working in the minors and then come up after that. And there's a potential Brandon Morrow could be back.
Yeah, we keep hearing about it. I mean, if we got Brandon Morrow back and he pitched like the Brandon Morrow that was healthy, you talk about a really nice addition to the bullpen. I'm not saying I'm really counting on it, but boy, that would be huge.
Yeah, and you put him in the spot he's better in is the setup man to Kimbrel and shortens that game up. Is your starters are probably, I mean, with the Cubs starters, 6 innings. And then you've got 8 and 9 covered. So it's basically you get through that 7th. If they don't get something in the 7th and you get Morrow back healthy and looking good, the starters you're not really going to score a lot of runs on. Probably not scoring in the 8th and 9th. And if you don't get something in the 7th, that's a nice way to shorten the game up.
Yeah, that would be ideal because we've been waiting to have that bullpen that's been absolute shut down 7, 8, 9. We hoped we had it when Kimbrel came, but Strop hasn't been healthy. You have Brandon Kinsler pitching really well, but if you're going to pitch him in either the 7th or 8th, you need somebody else reliable in one of those innings. I'm really like the way Rowan Wick is looking right now. So far, he's been throwing it very well, but I mean, let's say you have Brandon Morrow coming in the 8th, and you have Kinsler or Wick, or if Strop comes back in the 7th, and then you go to Craig Kimbrel, and Craig Kimbrel is pitching like Craig Kimbrel, then, there you go.
If that happens and you get this, the guy it's going to suck real bad for is poor Tyler Chatwood, who's had a nice year. And, nothing fantastic, but he's done everything we've asked from him. And I don't know where he fits because come playoffs is you're already going to 4-man rotation and you're going to go with your set, for the most part, your set guys at the end of the game. And I don't know where he fits in. If somebody struggles as a starter, they're going to put in one of the other starters. whoever didn't get the, one of the top 4 spots. So probably Quintana.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather stack the pen with reliable guys than have to rely on Chatwood, though I will give Chatwood a lot of credit for doing some pretty nice things this year. It was nice to see him today. Didn't he technically get a save with the number of innings he pitched? I think he did. So that was cool to see. Really like what Tyler Chatwood has done overall. Again, it hasn't been great, but he's been useful. And there have been times where he's completely disappeared. And you're wondering, okay, where is he? And then there he is. He pitches a few innings. You need a guy like that. You absolutely need a guy like that. But, I think getting Brandon Morrow back and reliable would be just all the big step.
Yeah, but it's a big if. It's a big if. We don't know what we're going to get with even, we know that Ben Zobrist is coming back, but we don't know what we're going to get from him. And I know everyone will be like, what do you have, 100 at-bats before he left? And, it wasn't very good results. Is clearly there was things going on in his life that probably distracted him from baseball, leading up to it. So I'm not going to judge him on that, but who knows what we're going to get when he comes back.
Right. Exactly.
I want to look at this with rose-colored glasses, and I'm hoping that Ben Zobrist comes back and is rested, healthy, and playing great, like he's somebody that's trying to get another contract, which I don't think he will try to. And Brandon Morrow comes back and looks like the guy that we hoped he did. I try to look at this with rose-colored glasses because I don't know what else you cling to if you can't cling to hope.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I'm just reading something interesting now. Joe Madden said there's something going around in the clubhouse. Darvish was ill and was gassed after the fifth. That's why he didn't go out there. And said that Chatwood and Schwarber weren't 100% either. But Darvish, still regarding, he pitched 5 innings, 1 run. Chatwood got the 3-inning save, and Schwarber hit a home run off the video board. So, kind of cool. Despite not feeling well, they all contributed to the win day.
The Reds just signed Tim Collins, so that means he's going to pitch awesome against us.
Oh yeah, I could already see
next
it.
Week. Yeah, so we had the 3-game sweep against the Brewers, where ended today, and arguably the best series that the Cubs have played this season. Defensively sound. You got great pitching. Quintana pitched great. You had scored runs in that game, that 6-2 win on Friday. Some runs without home runs, which is always nice to see.
Yeah, they were really good at just putting the ball at play, not striking out and generating runs. It was a nice refreshment.
Yeah, Cole Hamels came back from the injured list and pitched 5 innings, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts, no walks. You had the big win today. I was a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie, because I was like, oh man, they won the first 2. They're gonna let Milwaukee steal one here, and they didn't. Darvish looked great. 5 innings, only 1 earned run. Holland is pitched okay since coming over here. Chatty gets the save. You had guys hit. Hayward, what do you have? Another multi-hit game.
The only funny thing today was outside of a really bad Tony Kemp error, but they got out of it unscathed, so it wasn't a big deal. The only funny thing was, boy, I love Anthony Rizzo. He is so good, but my goodness, is he slow.
He lumbers.
Like, how he didn't score on that wild pitch is amazing.
The man, he is not fleet of foot.
No, but he does everything else incredible, so I'm not going to complain too much.
Like we said, is they're following up this great series, and you've got 3 more at home, but it's against a really good Oakland A's team, and it'll be fun to watch, is because they don't play Oakland very often.
No,
so I always like when they play teams that you don't see them play very often. So like when they play the Yankees, they play the Red Sox, they play Oakland.
Played the Angels earlier this year. You got to see Mike Trout. You don't see that often.
No, so it's exciting, and it's in Chicago, so you don't have to watch baseball at some goofy hour.
Those are the worst.
Oh, I hate the West Coast games. It's like, I'm like, at the end of the game, you're just like, I want to finish watching this. I got to go to bed.
Right.
But yeah, so it's in Chicago, so you get to watch it at a reasonable hour. So that should be a good series. But then you got the 10-game road streak, or the road trip. So, hopefully they can figure things out. Hopefully we still see Castellanos hitting well. Maybe he can spark something with, the rest of the Cubs hitters. I mean,
Into
the adage,
and I think you're looking pretty good.
the old adage is hitting is contagious, and hopefully Castellanos had his best years when he was surrounded by good hitters. So hopefully that being surrounded by good hitters now is going to put him in a better position. And
I mean, the guy leads the majors in doubles this year.
yeah,
Got to hand it to that.
but then we get the White Sox, and they get swept by the Mets.
The Mets, who are red hot and maybe crawling back into a playoff spot.
But and you know what? It's funny is the starting pitching was actually decently good.
It was.
It was the hitting just didn't come through. I mean, Reynaldo Lopez went 5 1/3 in that first game, only 2 earned runs. He had a bunch of walks, but only 2 earned runs. Giolito pitched great, 7 innings, 1 earned run, 9 strikeouts, and then
It was a nice get well game for him.
it was, and Colomé blows that one, and then Dylan C struggled. Yeah, I mean he's struggled a lot this year. I still have high hopes for him, but he's got over a 6 ERA so far in the bigs.
Well, I mean, you look at the stuff at times looks really good. It's just getting acclimated with the major leagues. Location has to be worked on. Maybe pitch selection has to be worked on. I see a lot of promise with him when he pitches, but yeah, there's some growing pains have to be worked on and some other things that have to be worked out. But you know, I think there's enough promise from him, despite the bad numbers, that you could say, all right, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel with him.
Yeah. Also, the difference between a AA hitter and a major league hitter is night and day.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a big thing when NFL quarterbacks or college quarterbacks go into the NFL is a lot of interceptions because they don't realize how much better NFL quarterbacks are, or cornerbacks are, and how much faster they are. And in holes that they could easily, windows that they could easily fit a ball into in college, that window is, they bait you to throw into that window because those cornerbacks are like, throw it, go ahead, throw it in that hole because I'm going to intercept it. It's the same with young pitchers is they're going to try to do something with a fastball without movement. And guess what? Everybody in the majors can get around on a fastball, no matter how fast you throw. If there's no movement on it, there's no spin on that ball, you can get around on it. I mean, unless it's something like 101, but you've got to keep major league hitters off balance. Change up, slider, it's not all heat. And this is something that young pitchers got to work on. Is they might have the stuff, but being able to keep those hitters off balance it's a new skill.
Yeah, and that's why now is the time to just kind of work on it. That's the whole point of the rest of the season. I mean, it's not like they're playing for a playoff spot right now.
No,
and that's nice because you don't have any pressure. You don't have any pressure, and then by next year when you are hopefully fighting for a playoff spot, you'll have learned a thing or two.
Yeah, and my buddy Gary texted me last night, and just texted, "I don't think the Sox will call up Robert this year. They are morons." And honestly, how do you argue with that? The guy has crushed the ball at every level this season. He started off in single A and killed it. Moved him up to double A. He killed it. They've moved him up to triple A. He's still killing it. Like,
yep.
What else does this guy have to prove? Like, why aren't you bringing him up? Especially you're struggling on offense. Why not bring the guy up? Who is he taking at bats away from?
I think it's the years of control thing. That's what I keep hearing about. Years of control, yada, yada, yada.
But
I don't see what good it does.
Wasn't he an international player? Didn't they sign him to a contract?
I believe so, but I think that still plays in play, I believe. I don't know the terms of his deal, honestly, but I think there's still some sort of control factor in there. I don't know. I haven't paid too much attention to his contract. I feel like whenever I hear Luis Robert and why he's not called up, I hear the whole years of control thing. I
I
really
don't
don't know
know.
for sure.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm the international signing thing is still a mystery to me. Especially with the money slottings and caps of how much you can spend and the way contracts work. I still don't understand it all. But I still don't understand. You bring the guy up, just do like what you did with Eloy Jimenez, sign the guy to $100 million contract.
Yeah, they may. They may. If there's one thing they're really good at doing, it's that. Very smart club friendly deals.
Yeah, and and Rick Hahn pretty much said that they're going to go for it in 2020.
As they should.
So why not give the guy? And here's the thing is we all know Eloy Jimenez is going to be very good. And at times this year, he has struggled at the plate is because it takes time to adjust to major league hitting. Why not give Louis Robert the time for the next couple months to hit at the major league level? So hopefully next season he hits the ground running and doesn't have those growing pains.
Ask Rick Hahn that. I don't have an answer.
I can't explain it. I just can't explain it. But there's got to be
the answer lies within those sideburns somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna as soon as we get off this, this podcast, I'm gonna go call Rick Hahn and have a long discussion with him, lay out on the law to him. He listens.
Well, we think where we are in our development, we think that it's not the best idea right now. I don't really know if that's a good Rick Hahn impression or not. And
the thing is, I can't really say anything bad about Rick Hahn because what in this rebuild has he done wrong?
If there's one thing I think I'd be a little critical of him, this is the one thing, is that I feel like there are times when he tries to build depth on the team and fill in holes, and he tends to go dumpster diving to the very bottom of the barrel. You could have gotten somebody better than Irvin Santana. You could have gotten what's his face, Dallas Keuchel, or somebody decent. But you decide to go with the Irvin Santanas and the Ross Detweilers and the Manny Benuelos. There are times where I feel like he could plug holes with guys that aren't complete bottom of the barrel. That's my only real criticism of him.
I agree with you if that's his call. I wonder how much the purse strings are being clenched and he's conserving room for bigger contracts, next year, the year after, this offseason, next.
Such a little payroll, though.
I hear you, but we all know how cheap that organization is.
Yeah, I mean Jerry Reinsdorf organizations. Yeah, it may not be his call. That's a good point.
It might be where they're not making any moves until it's time to make the moves, and they're going to be good. And maybe it might have been in the off season they said, hey, you know what, we're not going to be good this year. Let's just keep having the payroll low, because the way the Cubs look at it is there's X amount of money to spend every year. The way the White Sox think about things like a small market team. Small market teams go, all right, this is how much money we're going to spend over this amount of time. And you got a spittoon over there?
Oh, sorry, I hit my garbage can. I wasn't spitting like John Lackey or anything.
But the White Sox look at it like a small market team where you're like, oh, we're going to spend X amount of money over these number of years. And if we conserve this year, we'll have more to spend later. And that's not how big market teams think. So it's a different mentality. So the White Sox are like, well, the money we're not spending now, will have it saved, banked for a future year. And that's the only I can think of. And people progressed faster than he expected them to. And so now he's like, okay, well, we're not really going to sign guys in the middle of the season. Off season it is, but I think they will open the purse strings a little bit in this off season. I don't know how much, but they're definitely going to bring in better pitching than dumpster diving. I don't know how much better.
Oh yeah,
but it's going to be better. But I think they're still going to go for. I'm not going to say bargain like, shopping at the dollar store for groceries, but I'm saying that they're going to shop at, Aldi and Jewel, not Whole Foods.
The Jewels.
At the Jewels. But it's going to be an interesting offseason. I'm really curious of how confident they are for 2020, because the moves that they make and the free agents that they're rumored to be linked to, I think is going to speak volumes of, what their expectations are.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And just thinking about that, I was like, I wonder what Manny Machado's numbers are, because I don't watch a lot of Padres baseball. I know it's shocking.
Wow, really? You don't watch a lot of Padres baseball?
I don't. I really don't. He's doing all right. He's got a almost 3 WAR. For that kind of money, I think you would expect more, but 275, 344, 505.
At least he's not getting booed like Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper batting average is terrible, but that on base percentage is pretty high.
It is. I mean, he's never been a huge average hitter outside like 1 year when he won MVP.
Yeah, no, he's. I don't know why you'd boo him.
Well, it's Philly, and he.
They booed Santa Claus.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, Harper's not really come through in a big situation that much. So, yeah.
The WAR is only 2.3.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, is last year his WAR was only 3.5. The year before was very good. It was 4.8. But the year before that was 2.9, and then 9.3 the year before that, but 1.6 the year before that. So is Bryce Harper as good as he's been sold to us as?
I think he's a very good player. I think he can make a positive difference. He may be a tad overrated, though.
Yeah. His K rate is up this year. It's the highest of his career. And his walk rate is towards the bottom of his career numbers. He doesn't even have 20 home runs yet with a juiced ball. So, yeah, I don't know if you're getting what you paid for, but
no.
That tends to happen with contracts that big.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you're always comparing the numbers to the money no matter what.
Yeah. So, yeah, in his 3 years since his MVP season, he's been, not including this year, he's been more good than great, averaging a 3.7 WAR.
I mean, that's not bad by any means.
No, but
it's like Mike Trout and Cody Bellinger and other of those guys,
So I'm looking at a Fangraphs article, and they looked at outfielders who accumulated between 8 WAR and 14 WAR. Harper was at 11.2, and a WRC plus between 120 and 140 between the ages. Or from the age of 23 through 25, from 1973 to 2008, And then he eliminated players who had below a 2.5 WAR or above a 6.0 WAR at 25 years old. And here's the players from 1973 on. Larry Walker, Tony Gwynn, J.D. Drew, Ruben Sierra, Ellis Burke, Dave Winfield, Ellis Valentine, Lee Mazzilli, Steve Kemp, Adam Dunn, Lenny Dykstra, Dave Parker, Raul Mondesi, and Jack Clark.
I mean, there's some good names on that list.
Right. There's not a bunch of great names. I mean, Dave Winfield and Dave Parker are two of my all-time favorite baseball players.
I know that.
I couldn't explain to you why, but I met Dave Parker when I was a kid, and I was a pig in shit. I was so happy. Lenny Dykstra was a good, not great player. You throw Adam Dunn in there and go, hey. Ruben Sierra was a solid player. But he's one of those ones that how does he resonate with you? Because I'm a different age bracket than you. He was in my wheelhouse. Like how does a Ruben Sierra, resonate with you?
When I think of Ruben Sierra, I think of a very good player. I never think of a holy crap, he was amazing, but I think of a very solid player.
Okay, yeah, that's where it was. He was one of those guys that, wasn't great, but was one of those borderline all-star kind of guys that, you definitely, when you open a pack of baseball cards and you got a Ruben Sierra card, you're like, oh yeah, I got Ruben Sierra. So there's some good names in there, but that is far from, great names.
No, I mean, when you think of a guy that gets record-breaking money, you would think of like a Mike Trout. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean Mike Trout. When you look at him, you're like Ted Williams. Like the names you throw out with him, Mickey Mantle, you throw out like all-time great
Hall
names.
of Famers.
Yes. So when you look at Bryce Harper, you throw out very good names. And there's a big difference when the contracts are comparable. You just get a better value with Mike Trout.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I think Bryce Harper has more of an opportunity to win with the team he has than Mike Trout, but that's a whole different story.
Right. Yeah, here we go. How does Mike Trout stack up in his first 1,000 at-bats to the all-time greats? So in his first 1,000 plate appearances, he's 100 hits less than Pete Rose, 100 total bases less than Hank Aaron, these are the all-time leaders. He's got more home runs than Barry Bonds by quite a number. He's right in the league with Ricky Henderson. He beat Barry Bonds in walks, and so Barry Bonds is the all-time WAR leader.
That's right.
And in his first 1,000 plate appearances, Barry Bonds had a 50 WAR. Mike Trout has a 62
Goodness
WAR.
gracious.
So in his first 1,000 at bats, he's got 11. First 1,000 games. First 1,000 games. He's got 1,126 hits, 2,100 total bases, 224 home runs, 754 runs, 638 walks, 62 WAR.
My God, that's good. That's good.
So he's like he's like on pace or outpacing the all-time leaders in all these major categories.
I mean, the guy's on pace to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest player ever. And just, I mean, overall, not just in one aspect. We're not just talking getting on base or slugging, like all around. All around.
Yeah. It's unreal. Mike Trout makes me giddy.
And it just sucks that he's like never been on a winning team. Like, it really sucks.
It never will be on a winning team.
No, it's going to be like constant being on a mediocre team. It's a real shame.
Yeah. Let's see. What else do we have? Yeah. Geez, these numbers are incredible. Through 8 major league seasons, among hitters with a minimum of 4,500 plate appearances, Mike Trout already places 6th all time in WRC plus. He's literally sitting firmly behind Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, Lou Gehrig, Rogers Hornsby, and Barry Bonds.
Yeah, that's pretty good company right there.
And he's only one behind Rogers Hornsby, Lou Gehrig, and Barry Bonds.
Damn. That's crazy, man.
It's unreal. But should we wrap this up? Talk Bears.
Bears, yes.
Bears. Talking Bears. Did you go to Family Fest at all?
No, I was in Wrigleyville on the panel the night, so I couldn't go. Were you there?
I was busy avoiding Lollapalooza.
Oh, God bless you, because if you would have tried to go and avoid, good luck with that. No way in hell.
Yeah, I drove up like in that area where Lollapalooza is, like before a couple days before the event, and it was already nonsense. There was already fences everywhere, and
did you see that video of like the kids storming the fence and knocking it down?
Yes,
it looked like World War Z.
It's unreal. Like, I get that it's like brings a lot of people to Chicago, but man, that's a stupid event.
It's all a bunch of high drunk 19-year-olds, and everyone around the city knows to avoid the hell out of it at this point.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with it.
Nothing.
But yeah, so this is Khalil Mack came into the Bears late after camp was over. This is the first Khalil Mack camp with the Bears. And he's made it very clear during the offseason that he's working harder because he didn't think he did enough last year. If you can believe that. Didn't feel he did enough and wanted to do more. And from all accounts, he is absolutely wreaking havoc on the Bears offense so far in training camp. Is just blowing up plays. And I mean, clearly he can't touch the quarterback. I think Matt Nagy actually had a quote that said, everybody knows not to touch Mitch Trubisky during practice, otherwise they're cut.
I see Khalil Mack sitting there at the line, just instinctively knowing he wants to sack the quarterback. He looks up at Trubisky, knowing he can't get him, and Trubisky in his light of vision just morphs into like a giant steak, just knowing he wants to go get it. And he's trying his best to resist, just going up there and just tackling him.
And you know, there's the school of thought that going against a really great defense helps your offense. And I think it does to a certain point. But when you've got Khalil Mack just blowing up every play, does it make you better or does it just make you frustrated?
I don't know. I just think it speaks of how good he is.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it talks bad about it, but it's you're like, how are we supposed to even run the plays and, you know, see how good we are when Khalil, we've got a Hall of Famer here just absolutely in his prime, just blowing everybody up. Like, I don't know, like, I don't know how you deal with that. That's just gotta be a big blow to your ego.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a valid point to bring up. Part of me almost thinks, look what he did last year without a training camp. Can't he just kind of train for a little bit and then be like, all right, I'm good, and then let everybody do everything else? It's kind of like you're playing on the playground, and that one kid that's bigger than everybody is like just going ham, and everyone's just trying to back off because of how good he is, and he's going crazy and screaming and pumping his arms in the air, and it kind of feels like that.
Yeah, it's unreal. And people keep talking, well, the defense is ahead of the offense. Well, duh. I mean, here's two things to keep in mind. Number one, this was the best defense in the NFL last year. And they didn't get worse.
No.
Is your defensive coordinator left, but you replaced him with a guy who, I don't know if you watched the Hall of Fame inductions, but one of his former players just praised how important he was, your new defensive coordinator was, in his becoming a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't have a drop off there. Is you got rid of Adrian Amos, who honestly I thought at points was, regardless of what this, the advanced stats said, I thought he was a weak link at points to the Bears defense, and you replaced him with a guy who's a better ball hawk. You have Eddie Jackson, who's just getting better, and Khalil Mack has a full training camp. So why in the world would I think that there's going to be a drop off? So you are going against the number one defense. And number two is when the offense relies on being precision fine-tuned. Everything has to be in working motion to be successful. The defense, you need perfection by all 11 players to be successful. The defense is, you just need one guy to play really well in the play, and you can just blow it up.
And you have multiple guys playing well and blowing things up. Not just that.
Right. So there's the margin for error of an offense at this point is a lot smaller than the defense. You're already playing against the number one defense, and it's a timing based offense. So you've got to get everybody in the rhythm. So I don't expect the offense to be hanging with the defense, but I've seen enough plays by the offense to be excited about things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm totally there with you. Look at what David Montgomery has done. I know it's practice and all that, but boy, doesn't that footwork look good?
I forgot who said it. Was it Danny Trevathan, maybe? That said he remind him of Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, the kid's getting a lot of good comparisons by a number of people, and you just look at the raw video and you see what he can physically do. You potentially have a really special player right there. You really do.
Absolutely. And I've heard coaches talk about how Anthony Miller has come into this season as a more mature player, and they're raving about him. So the only thing people can really talk about in this camp is the kicking competition. And guess what? I will be the first one to tell you what an embarrassment this kicking situation was.
It
for
really
a while. But you know what? Is Fry and Pinero are kicking pretty well.
Yeah, I'm still a little weary about it, but I mean, right now it looks fine. They're hitting it.
And I think the goal here is to find your young kicker and you sign him to a cheap contract and you have him for a long time. I mean, do you remember where they got Robbie Gould?
I honestly don't. I just remember he was here in 05.
He was working construction.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I do remember that now.
And I think that's the kind of thing they're looking for is, if they end up having to sign a veteran kicker, guess what? Veteran kickers, they're going to be available, and you can go get one, and they're going to stay in shape. They're going to keep fit. They don't need a training camp. You could sign them at any point during the preseason, and boom, you're golden. But I think the goal here is to have one of these two guys actually win a competition, kick well and grow with this young team. I think that's the goal. I just hope it works out. But it seems that
I just want someone who can kick it through the uprights. That's all I care about.
Yeah, you know what? Kickers are going to miss. There's no kicker. You're going to have a kicker that misses an extra point. I don't think anybody was perfect on extra points last year. You're going to have kickers that miss kicks. It's the way they miss it and the consistency. Do they miss one and then they come back the next game and they look great? Do you feel the butterflies in your stomach when they're kicking anything more than a 40-yard field goal? I just want somebody that we feel comfortable with. I mean, Robbie Gould missed field goals, but you know what? Is when he went out there, you felt confident that he was going to make the kick.
Yeah, absolutely. Until his last season with the Bears, unfortunately. Right. But that's unfortunately that's what happened. But you look at his whole tenure as a Bear, and you'd say, yeah, you were liable when Gould was set up to make the game winner against Seattle in the playoffs. You felt pretty good, and he nailed it.
Right, and we brought up Montgomery has looked great. Bilal Nichols showed up in awesome shape for training camp. Clinton Dix had a minor injury, from the OTAs, but he's back sooner than expected. He's practicing. So
Sherrick McManus looks good.
Sherrick McManus looks good. You are seeing, so many good things from this training camp and this team. I'm so excited. And then it's just capped off with Matt Miller does every year picks one guy after talking with, scouts, GMs, coaches, etc. And he puts all this information that he's gathered together and he picks one guy that's going to be his breakout star of the year. Last year was Pat Mahomes. This year, Mitchell Trubisky.
You think he's going to take that big step, that really big step?
I do. I really do. Are we going to see perfection? Are we going to see what we saw from Pat Mahomes last year? No, because that was really, really MVP level. But is Mitch Trubisky going to really take a step forward? Absolutely. I mean, I know a lot of people knocked that performance against the Eagles, but the Eagles had one of the best defenses in football, and he ended up 26 for 43, over 300 yards, no interceptions. And, that's how his season ended. I think he's just going to build on that. You've got a year of everybody, playing with these guys. He's got a year of understanding the offense. He's already taken the steps forward. I've seen some of the throws he's made. Sure, he's had some interceptions and he hasn't been squeaky clean.
To Wims was really nice. Was it to Wims?
He's made
during Family Fest.
He's had, and Wims is another guy who is, from what I'm reading, has looked fantastic. Like the point of there's no way that they're going to let him go, because if they try to put him on a practice squad, he's going to get snatched up. So he is a guy that's making this team, barring injury. But Trubisky, I think, is really poised to make that like big leap. And we saw, we don't know what the hell we saw his rookie year because he wasn't really allowed to throw. It was a John Fox offense. And then last year we saw he did a lot of good things. And I think we're going to see better play calling from Matt Nagy, because Matt Nagy had a lot of room to improve. And you're seeing a much more confident guy. He's coming in here and he rewatched every one of those games and saw where he could be better, things he did wrong. And I think you're going to see better play calling out of Matt Nagy and a better understanding what Mitch Trubisky can do. And you're going to play to those strengths. And I think you're going to see a lot of big step forward. And, earlier I said about knee-jerk reaction in sports is everyone just labeled Mitch Trubisky as a bust. And I think you're going to have a lot of people that are backtracking on those and deleting old tweets.
Well, I mean, so far, Mitch Trubisky, sure, he hasn't been outrageously good, but you look at the numbers from last year and you can't say they're bad. So I think if he takes another step forward, you're entering into really good territory. Not maybe elite, but really good territory.
I mean, he's going to be the best quarterback in Bears history.
You would hope.
And yeah, that's not really a high praise, but
it's huge slander to Eric Kramer, my friend.
But you're going to see a level of quarterback play that you've never seen here before.
I'm ready for it. He's got the coaching around him. He's got the weapons around it. I think he's more confident than any other quarterback I've seen the Bears have. I'm ready for it. I'm here for it. And you know what? I don't care if he puts up as good a numbers as Mahomes or Tom Brady or Drew Brees. If he goes out there, plays really well, and does enough to win you a championship, I don't really care about any of the other comparisons.
No, I don't care about comparisons. I don't. I just want to see. I want to see winning football. I just want to win. And I don't want to be a Packers fan where. I don't know if you saw me retweet somebody, but it was the Packers lose, but Aaron Rodgers throws for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, and it shows like teenage kids just doing some whoop whoop there it is dance, and like I don't want to be that. I don't want to be like, oh well, our quarterback's putting up these sick fantasy points. I don't care about fantasy. Mitch Trubisky can have terrible fantasy points as long as he's winning football games in real life.
People need to move off the whole fantasy thing when it comes to evaluation. Fantasy is fun and all, but I don't think it's the best way to evaluate a player.
Right. And, it's funny because, people are like, oh, Mitch Trubisky didn't throw for 4,000 yards. And
he also missed 2 games.
Hold on. Let's look at this. So, is Drew Brees didn't throw for over 4,000 yards until he was on his second team.
So he never threw 4,000 yards as a Charger?
Nope. He maxed out at 3,576.
Huh.
And let's see, his quarterback ratings were 76.9, 67.5, 104.8, 89.2. Those were his Charger quarterback ratings. So everyone's like, oh, Mitch Trubisky's quarterback rating, blah, 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 is how many years was Drew Brees in the league before he had 2 consecutive years of 100 quarterback rating or higher? He was in the league for, I won't count his rookie year because he didn't play that much. Let's see, 2, 3, right, so we'll go second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, sixth year, seventh year, eighth year, 10th year. His 15th and 16th years were the first 2 years that he had back-to-back 100 quarterback ratings.
How about that?
And everyone's like, what, greatest quarterback of all time?
Don't you mean the greatest quarterback of all time?
So, yeah, I mean, Mitch Trubisky last year had a 95.4 quarterback rating, which if you compare to Drew Brees' second year as a starter was 30 points higher than Drew Brees.
I'll never say that Mitch Trubisky is going to be as good or better than Drew Brees over his career, but what bothers me is when people say how bad he is when he's not. Does he have problems? Yes. Are there things to work through? Sure. Is he ever going to be a top 5 quarterback? Personally, I don't think so, but the fact that he never gets any credit for the stuff he does well, or there's excuses, oh, well, he threw a dump pass. Yeah, Pat Mahomes did that a ton of times, and yet you didn't see people going, oh, he threw a dump pass. It's stuff like that just irks me. Or when people say, oh, he's Rex Grossman 2.0. Let me tell you something. Rex Grossman was a freaking statue out there. He couldn't move like Trubisky does.
No, and he was much shorter.
Yeah.
And I mean, and people are like, oh, he's the worst quarterback in the first round of that draft. Like that quarterback draft is going to turn out to be a really good quarterback draft.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So I don't understand what, people, is Trubisky going to be the best quarterback in that draft? I don't know. We'll see. This is sports fans love to have knee-jerk reactions where they're going to extrapolate an entire career off of 1 or 2 seasons. When if you did that, you look at a guy like Peyton Manning and you've been like, oh yeah, he would have sucked if you extrapolated his rookie year or second year. And you're like, oh, you know what Ryan Leaf might have had a decent career. You can't extrapolate. Vince Young would have had a good career. There's RG3 would have had a good career, but you can't extrapolate. You have to see how things play out. So, sure, you can talk about at this point, are you disappointed? Do you expect more? Are they not hitting your expectations? But you can't talk about a guy, comparing careers a year or 2 into these types of things. Like it's just ludicrous. I don't even know.
Ludicrous, as former 49ers coach Jim Tonsula said in his opening presser. Do you remember that?
Old Jim Tonsula. Jim Tonsula was the best. That guy couldn't he might be a good position coach, but not a good head coach. But the guy was a gem in front of the crowd.
So what are you thinking about your offensive coordinator? Let me throw a few names. Mark Trestman. I'll never forget watching that. I'm thinking, what the hell are they doing? I mean, was their point just to get a yes man puppet after firing Jim Harbaugh? That's what it seemed like.
I don't know what the hell was happening. But yeah, I'm looking at the 2017 NFL draft and people are like, oh man, San Francisco really fleeced the Bears. Well, yeah. Would you rather have those extra draft picks that they got from the Bears, but having Solomon Thomas as your number 1 pick, or would you rather have Mitch Trubisky?
I'll take True. I think True's shown enough promise.
Yeah. So yeah, you had Pat Mahomes was taken 10, and Kansas City gave up a ton to move up and get him, and they're happy about it. Deshaun Watson was taken 12th. Houston paid a ton to move up and get him. And guess what? Those 3 quarterbacks are all playing really well. And I'm really happy because all 3 seem like they're really good kids. Like you can't, Cam Newton just seems like a turd. There's Tom Brady's a turd. Like there's guys that are just turds and you're just like
turd.
But they're total turds. But I can't find anybody saying bad things about Sean Watson, Pat Mahomes, or Mitch Trubisky as people. Like they just seem like good young men. So that's just winding up as I think it's going to turn out as one of the better quarterback drafts in a long time. And then next round you go to Deshaun Kaiser was the next quarterback taken, which sucks.
Is he still with Green Bay?
I don't know where he's at right now. What other quarterbacks were taken in this draft? Davis Webb. CJ Beathard. He played all right when he had a chance. He played okay. Man, not a lot of quarterbacks here. Joshua Dobbs. Oh man, I remember I scouted him. He's not good. Yeah, but those three first round quarterbacks are good quarterbacks, and to compare and be like, oh, this guy's not as good as this one. But you know what? If they're all three are good, then all three are good. All three teams traded up to get somebody, and I think everybody's happy with what they have. They could, because you can't always be like, oh, you could have got this guy instead of this guy. If they're playing well, you have to consider drafting a good player as a win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Kaiser is still on the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So yeah, I'm really excited about the Bears. We've got the first preseason game coming up real soon. The 8th.
Yeah, it's coming up very quickly, and I'm actually pretty excited to watch it.
Yeah, this coming Thursday against the Panthers, and then the 16th against the Giants, the 24th against the Colts, and the 29th against the Titans.
No Browns this year for the first time ever.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to go. I told my daughter we were driving past Soldier Field last week or the week before, and she's like, I want to go to a Bears game. So I don't want to take her to a regular season game because I don't think she'll last the whole thing. So the last preseason game might be
as hell. So
yeah, I mean, I'm kicking myself because the Browns game last year was the perfect storm because the Browns were terrible last preseason game, and I could have gotten $15 tickets.
I tried to go. I tried to get people to go, but nobody was available. So if I would have talked to you, we probably could have gone.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'll go. So this year I'm going to take my daughter. I'm going to find, cheap tickets, and I'm just going to take her because the weather's still good. By the end of the season, the weather's terrible. She's not going to want to sit there in Arctic weather.
No,
we won't even make it through the first quarter, and she'll want to go home. And you spend a ton of money on it. Last year I went to one game.
First quarter is all you really care about anyway.
I went to one game last year. I went to the Jets game, and my buddy Gary got tickets. We were in the third row behind the Jets bench. It was awesome. You realize how giant everybody is because you're like, man, I think the punter is bigger than I am. and then you see how small the punter is compared to everybody. It was unreal. It was so cool to be that close. I've never been that close for an NFL game.
Yeah, no, I've actually only been to preseason NFL games. I've never been to a regular season Bears game.
I've been to a bunch, but it's always usually terrible weather. There's only a handful of games where I've been where it's been okay weather. So I'm excited to go to a preseason game this year because you get to see I actually like the last preseason game of the season because you get to see guys that probably you're never going to see again. And, you get some playing time of guys that are trying to make a name for themselves in this league and make a team. And here's the thing is in my, when I look back at my Bears memory, it's been a long time since I looked at the Bears roster and looked at the guys that they're going to cut and going, hey, I think this guy and this guy and this guy can actually make somebody else's squad. And we're getting to that point right now where our roster is good enough where people that are cut are going to not only going to make another team, but probably are going to either start or play significant time.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where okay, The last game you can do that. In the first game, you see the starters play for like one drive, and then it's a bunch of nobodies, and you're like, okay, I don't know who these people are, and you're gonna see some of them for another few weeks, and then they'll be gone. Like, honestly, I remember, I think it was in 2009. It was Cutler's first ever game as a Bear. It was like against the Giants in the preseason. And it was a big crowd and a lot of people showed up. And after like the first half, like more than half the place cleared out.
Yeah, that happens.
The only thing is though, like, for me, even though, well, maybe it's because my brother lives in Wrigleyville and parking isn't a big deal because I could park by his place. So, like, if I just had an impulse to go to a Cubs game and I could find tickets, I could be like, okay, it's a Saturday. Here's a ticket that's not too badly priced. Sure, I could do it. But with, like, the Bears, it's like, okay, I got to drive through the city. I got to drive to Soldier Field. I have to deal with that nightmare of a parking lot. Even if it's preseason, it's just a little different.
So I'm looking at tickets right now on StubHub for that game, and you can get tickets for as low as $11.
Rock on.
So, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Is we're going to get some cheap tickets.
There you go. I may do the same.
Yeah, now I'm just looking where the best view is because there's some $12 tickets, $13 tickets. This is insane.
You pay more for the parking than you do the ticket.
Yeah, I will take the L. Yeah, people are just giving these tickets away, basically.
Now, I remember one time, or when we'd go to the Bears preseason games, my dad and I, we'd park in the Hilton, either the Hilton or the Palmer House, one of the two, and then we'd just walk right there. And, I mean, you still paid money to go to the Hilton or the Palmer House, but the nice thing is you don't have to deal with that huge crowd trying to get out. Like, you walk there, you walk out, you avoid that mass of humanity that's in that parking garage, and you just pull out nicely when you're in the Palmer House. That's kind of what we did.
Yeah, so we usually we'll just take the L and then walk from the L, and it's a easy peasy. Just a little crowded right at the Roosevelt stop, but
I would have to take the Metra and then take the L there. That would be kind of a pain.
Yeah, this is insane. There are so many tickets under $20.
And this is for the last preseason game?
Yeah. Oh my God, this is crazy. So for $100, you can get third row.
Oh, sweet.
Like, that's insane.
I don't know if I'd pay that though for a
No, not for that, but yeah, that's wow. So cheap. So yeah, I think I'm gonna pick up these tickets tonight because that's gonna be awesome.
And you're going to show up to Soldier Field, and they're going to say, "Sir, what is that?" And it's just a big pitcher of Kool-Aid that you're stirring around.
And me wearing a meatball costume. Meatball costume drinking Kool-Aid.
And the security guard's like, "Oh, another one of these weirdos." You're stirring. You hear the clink, clink, clink as you stir that big wooden spoon, the Kool-Aid. You're in your big meatball costume. You cover yourself in sauce. You're just dripping all over the place.
My goodness. Should we wrap this one up?
Yeah, why don't we?
All right, so that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please make sure you hit subscribe, however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, the TuneIn app, or Google Play. anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're probably on there. I think we're on Spotify now. Follow us on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. And thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on the plains.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing